As the setting sun cast its final rays on the office buildings of Boston, Catherine Bradley was finishing a video conference with executives from the East Asian branch. She rubbed her tired eyes and began organizing the documents scattered across her desk. Catherine was known for her excellent negotiation skills and strategic thinking as the youngest senior consultant at International Business Solutions. "Kath, aren't you going home yet?" "It's already 8, Jennifer peeked through the conference room door. "Just a little longer. I still have some final coordination with the Asian team," Catherine answered with a smile. "My husband was supposed to return from his Seattle business trip today, but his flight seems to be delayed. So there's no rush." Jennifer looked concerned. "You were working late last week too, weren't you? Doesn't Michael complain?" Catherine sighed lightly. Her marriage to Michael Bradley was in its 8th year. At first, he had supported her career. But recently, especially since Catherine had been chosen to lead the Asian market expansion project, his attitude had clearly changed. "It's a bit complicated lately," Catherine answered honestly. "Since his promotion was passed over at his company, he gets upset whenever I talk about my work." "Male pride, I suppose," Jennifer said sympathetically. "By the way, what about the family dinner this weekend? With your parents and sister?" Catherine's expression subtly clouded. "It's still on. Sunday at 6 in the afternoon, at my parents' house." Her parents, George and Helen Smith, were enjoying a comfortable retirement in an upscale New England neighborhood. Her father was a former executive at a major pharmaceutical company, and her mother kept busy with social activities as a local society lady. And her sister Brittany didn't have a steady job, relying on her parents' financial support to get by. "Is Brittany still the same?" Jennifer asked, though she already knew the answer. "Yes, waiting for her next big opportunity," Catherine replied sarcastically. But immediately feeling guilty, she added, "But I know she's trying in her own way." In reality, Catherine sent a considerable amount of money each month to her sister and parents. Brittany's temporary financial difficulties had lasted over 3 years now, but Catherine, being a devoted sister, never complained. The next morning, Catherine was looking at the calendar on the refrigerator while making coffee in her kitchen. Next week's schedule, circled in red marker, Singapore/Tokyo trip, 14 days. This international project was supposed to be a major turning point in her career. "Good morning," Michael entered the kitchen. When he had returned home last night, Catherine was already asleep. He silently reached for the coffee pot and poured himself a cup. "How was Seattle?" Catherine attempted to start a conversation. "Fine," he answered curtly. Then, looking at the calendar on the refrigerator, his expression darkened. "Again." Catherine took a deep breath. "Michael, this is an important project. It means the company trusts me." "Oh, of course," his voice was laced with sarcasm. Catherine Bradley, superwoman. Shining at work while her home and husband come second. "That's unfair," Catherine quietly objected. "We don't have children, and you travel frequently too." Instead of answering, Michael put down his coffee cup and left the room. Catherine was left alone again. That weekend, the atmosphere at dinner at her parents' house was awkward. When her mother Helen heard about Catherine's business trip, she frowned with concern. "Dear, are you sure it's okay to be away from home for so long? Won't Michael be lonely?" Brittany interrupted. "Sis, that's a new Givenchy bag, isn't it?" Her voice mixed envy with sarcasm. "I wanted one too. But impossible on my salary." Catherine was about to speak but decided against it. Everyone seemed to have forgotten about the designer wallet she had given Brittany last Christmas. Her father George joined the conversation. "Catherine, who's going to take care of the house while you're away?" "Michael is an adult, Dad," Catherine answered with a smile. "Besides, he can take care of himself without me." That night, on the drive home, Michael maintained his silence. Catherine noticed his cell phone lighting up on the center console. It was a message notification. She couldn't see the sender's name, but part of the message, "Tonight was fun," was visible on the screen. Michael quickly grabbed his phone and put it in his pocket. "Who was that?" Catherine asked casually. "A colleague from work." "About a project," he answered, still looking out the window. That night, Catherine lay awake staring at the ceiling. She felt something was wrong. Michael's attitude, her parents' behavior, and Brittany's unusual interest. But she had important work to do. She had to leave for overseas in 2 days. Family matters could wait until after that. Telling herself this, Catherine finally fell asleep. From the window of her room at Marina Bay Sands Hotel in Singapore, Catherine was gazing at the glittering night cityscape. It was past 2 a.m., but she was immersed in making final adjustments for tomorrow's important presentation. Her smartphone vibrated, displaying Michael on the screen. Unusually, it was a message from her husband. "Meeting running late. Going to be up late. Good night." Catherine frowned. It should be just past noon in Boston now. What kind of daytime meeting would run so late that it would keep him up late? But despite her doubts, she simply replied, "Good night. I have a big presentation tomorrow." A week into her trip, communication between Catherine and Michael had become increasingly sparse. They exchanged only brief messages, and video call appointments were cancelled twice. Whenever she called, Michael always cut her off saying, "I'm busy now." On the third day after moving to Tokyo, Catherine received a strange email from her sister. "Sis, I need childhood photos. Especially vacation pictures at the beach or Christmas party photos if you have them. In a hurry. From Brittany." Though puzzled, Catherine selected several photos from the digital album she had organized before her trip and sent them. "What are they for?" she asked, but there was no reply from Brittany. That night, Catherine received a message from her friend Sarah in Boston. "Kath, look at this. Yesterday at a bistro on Newberry Street." Attached was a photo of Michael and Brittany having dinner at an upscale restaurant. They were engaged in intimate conversation, and Michael was touching her sister's hand. Catherine stared at the photo with a tightening feeling in her chest. Michael had said he was on a business trip. Sarah, were they alone? Catherine typed with trembling fingers. "No, your parents were there too. Looked like a family meeting. I was concerned when I didn't see you, so I asked, but..." Catherine took a deep breath. There was nothing wrong with the family gathering itself. But why had her husband lied? And why hadn't anyone told her? The next day, between important meetings with Japanese companies, Catherine remotely accessed her home security system. Checking the records from the past few days, she found footage of an unfamiliar sports car parked in front of her house multiple times. One evening, the footage showed Brittany getting out of that car and entering the house. Michael was guiding her into the house, his arm around her. A notification email from the bank arrived on Catherine's laptop. The subject line read, "Joint account change confirmation." She definitely did not remember making such a request. Quickly logging into online banking, she found a pending application to remove her name from the joint account. "What's happening?" Catherine murmured. Later that same day, during a celebration after successfully concluding a contract with a Japanese company, Catherine was talking with her Tokyo colleague, Ken. "Mrs. Bradley, I saw your husband on social media," Ken said, slightly hesitant. "Photos of him with a young woman, they seem to be celebrating." Catherine quietly asked, "What kind of photos?" "On a beach in Hawaii." "Well, I'm sorry, I may have said something inappropriate," Ken apologized hastily. That night, Catherine sat motionless in her hotel room for a long time. The pieces were beginning to fit together. Michael's lies, her sister's photo request, the secret meeting with her parents, and the bank account change request. She made a decision. The next morning, Catherine contacted her company's lawyer and requested protective measures for all her property and bank accounts. Next, she hired a detective agency and backed up the security camera footage. Due to the great success of the project, Catherine's company decided to award her a special bonus. She was also unofficially appointed as the head of the new Asian regional headquarters. However, in the absence of family with whom to share this good news, Catherine felt lonely. On the evening before her return, she finally connected with Michael on the phone. "Michael, we need to talk," Catherine said calmly. "I think so too." Michael's voice sounded unusually cheerful. Multiple voices and music could be heard in the background. "I'll be waiting at the airport when you get back tomorrow. I have something important to tell you." Catherine paused for a moment before responding, "I understand. I'm looking forward to it." After hanging up, she opened her laptop and accessed a folder named Emergency Plan. Then, she sent her final email. From the window of her high-rise hotel in Tokyo, Catherine was gazing at the pre-dawn cityscape. The clock showed 4 a.m. She was about to start final packing for tomorrow's return flight, but the final project report was still spread out on her desk. These 2 weeks had been the most important period in her career. She had finalized 3 major contracts and her proposal to revamp the company's East Asia strategy had been accepted. But her heart was directed toward home. To Michael and her family. From the evidence she had gathered, it was clear that something was happening. Yet, Catherine still couldn't figure out exactly what it was. The meeting app chime from her laptop interrupted her thoughts. Feedback on her final presentation had arrived. Catherine regained her focus and turned to her laptop. She checked emails and made final revisions to her report as time passed. At 5:30 a.m., her smartphone rang. Michael's name appeared on the display. At this time? It should still be 4:30 p.m. in Boston. "Michael?" Catherine answered the phone. "What is it?" "Hey, Catherine." Michael's voice was unnaturally cheerful, though he sounded somewhat tense. Party music and people laughing could be heard in the background. "I have something to tell you." Catherine sat down heavily in her chair. "What is it? Is that a party or something?" "Yes, it's a party. A special celebration." Michael's voice had a coldness to it that she had never heard before. "I wanted to tell you clearly." A moment of silence. Someone could be heard through the phone urging, "Tell her." Catherine felt an icy premonition. "I'm getting married to your sister Brittany in Hawaii. Sold the house and car, everything." Catherine gasped. She could hear her sister and parents laughing on the other end of the line. "What?" she asked in a hoarse voice. "Didn't you hear?" Michael's voice was cruelly cheerful. "I married Brittany. Our marriage is over. I've already contacted a lawyer." Catherine stared blankly out the window. The Tokyo streets were beginning to be illuminated by the morning sun. "You're joking, right?" She felt as if her voice was coming from far away. "Joking? Not at all. This is the most serious thing in my life." Michael's voice had a triumphant ring to it. "You were always focused on work. Brittany is different. She's a woman who puts family first." Another voice came through the phone. It was Catherine's father's voice. "Catherine, are you listening?" George Smith's voice had the stern tone she had known since childhood. "You've always been all about work. Brittany is better suited for Michael than a daughter who doesn't value family." Then her mother Helen's voice, "You've always put us last, haven't you? Brittany isn't like that. She understands the meaning of family." Catherine quietly closed her eyes. She felt tears streaming down her cheeks, but she made no sound. "Sis, are you listening?" Now Brittany's high-pitched voice echoed through the phone. Her mocking tone was evident. "You always look down on me, so it's my turn now. Your husband, your home, your car, they're all mine now. How about that?" Surprised. Catherine took a deep breath. And then she realized for the first time. She wasn't surprised. Somewhere deep in her heart, she had sensed this coming. Michael's sudden coldness, her sister's photo request, the secret meetings with her parents, it all connected. We've disposed of all your belongings, Michael continued. Even if you come back, there's nothing left. We're starting a new life. Without you. Catherine, I finally showed you reality, Brittany's voice was full of victory. Your perfect life was just an illusion. You never really had anything. In the silence of the room, Catherine could only hear her own breathing. On the other end of the phone, it seemed like the entire family was waiting for her reaction. They probably expected her to rage and cry out. Instead, Catherine answered in a calm voice. I see, understood. On the other end of the phone, the conversation momentarily stopped. They clearly hadn't expected this reaction from her. Understood, that's all? Michael's voice mixed with confusion. Yes, Catherine took another deep breath and steadied her voice. I'll be back tomorrow. Looking forward to seeing you all. And she hung up. Silence returned to the room. Catherine slowly stood up and walked to the window. Tokyo was now fully illuminated by the morning sun, and a new day was beginning. She smiled quietly. Catherine returned to her laptop and opened a folder named Emergency Plan B. Inside were documents she had prepared months ago. Correspondence with lawyers, bank account records, evidence of Michael's suspicious behavior, and most importantly, a file titled Final Response Plan. She opened that file, checked its contents, and nodded with satisfaction. According to plan, she murmured quietly. Catherine picked up the phone and called a law firm in Boston. Mr. Johnson, this is Catherine Bradley. It's time to execute Plan B. After hanging up, she looked out the window once more. The new morning light was illuminating her face. Catherine's eyes no longer held sadness or anger, but firm determination. Tomorrow will be interesting, she said quietly. And began her final packing. Despite being a weekday afternoon, the arrival gate at Boston Logan International Airport seemed more crowded than usual. Catherine Bradley, having completed her long flight from Tokyo, had applied perfect makeup on the plane and was dressed in a high-quality gray pantsuit. She slowly exited the gate and headed toward the arrival lobby. There, as expected, familiar faces were waiting. Michael was pale, Brittany wore an anxious expression, and her parents, George and Helen, were clearly confused. Catherine smiled and walked toward them without slowing her pace. Michael was the first to move. He hurried toward Catherine in a panic. Catherine. What happened? The lawyer says. His voice was trembling. Catherine stared directly into his eyes and calmly replied, as planned. The blood drained from Michael's face. What do you mean? I knew everything you were trying to do to me. Catherine's voice was as cold as ice. Brittany approached the two. Sis, what are you talking about? You were planning to have a fake wedding ceremony and steal my assets, weren't you? Catherine interrupted her sister. I knew all about your plans. 4 months. Her parents also came closer. Her mother Helen began to speak. Catherine, what are you? Enough, Mom, Catherine raised her hand. Stop acting. I have all the evidence of how involved you all were. The buzz in the airport momentarily quieted, creating a space around them. 2 uniformed police officers and a man in a suit approached. Michael Bradley, the suited man asked. I'm Detective Davis from the Boston Police Fraud Investigation Division. I have some questions for you. What? Michael stepped back in surprise. What is this about? Catherine answered, fraud, embezzlement, forging documents, the indictment is long. Brittany cried out, Sis, what have you done? I've just revealed the truth, Catherine answered calmly. I noticed your suspicious behavior months ago. Michael's infidelity, secret meetings. I started collecting evidence. She slowly took a tablet from her handbag and showed it to Michael. The screen displayed photos of him and Brittany in intimate situations, records of unauthorized access to bank accounts, and copies of documents with forged signatures of Catherine. Before my business trip, I moved all my assets to a separate account, I also completed legal procedures to invalidate the name changes on the house and car, Catherine explained matter-of-factly. The wedding ceremony in Hawaii is also legally invalid. Bigamy is a crime unless formal divorce proceedings are completed. Michael's face contorted. You, since when? Since you first started meeting with Brittany, Catherine answered. Did you think you could fool me? Someone who has been detecting fraud and embezzlement as a corporate consultant for years. Detective Davis stepped forward. Michael Bradley, Brittany Smith, George Smith, Helen Smith. You are being taken in for questioning on suspicion of fraud, conspiracy, and embezzlement. This is a mistake. George shouted. We haven't done anything. Everything is recorded in the bank records, Dad, Catherine said quietly. Including the unauthorized transfers made to your account in my name. People in the airport stopped to watch this dramatic scene. As the police officers began to handcuff Michael and her family, Brittany broke down in tears. Sis, please, You can talk at the trial, Catherine coldly dismissed her. Catherine stood still as the police officers took Michael and the others away. People began to move again, filling the space around her. Detective Davis returned. Ms. Bradley, excellent evidence collection. Without your cooperation, it would have been difficult to prove this type of family fraud case. Thank you, Detective, Catherine smiled. What those people need is legal sanctions. There will be procedures at the station tonight. Can you give a formal statement tomorrow morning? Of course, Catherine nodded. I need to find accommodation until then. Have you arranged for a lawyer? Already done, she answered confidently. See you tomorrow. After Detective Davis left, Catherine headed to the airport lounge. At the check-in counter, there was a notification of a message from her company's Tokyo office. Catherine checked the message. Congratulations on your appointment as Vice President. Preparations for your assignment as the new East Asia Regional Director are complete. Catherine smiled on her tired face. Even amid betrayal and sadness, her career was reaching new heights. She ordered a coffee and sat by the window. The sunset spread across the sky, heralding the arrival of a new night. A new beginning, Catherine whispered quietly, gazing out the window. There was no longer any regret in her eyes. At the Boston District Court, Catherine sat next to her lawyer, maintaining a calm expression. Michael, Brittany, and her parents stood up in the defendant's box, looking exhausted. Defendants Michael Bradley, Brittany Smith, George Smith, and Helen Smith. The court finds the defendants guilty of fraud, conspiracy, and embezzlement, the judge's voice solemnly echoed. In particular, the main culprit, defendant Michael Bradley, is sentenced to 5 years in prison. Defendants Brittany Smith, George Smith, and Helen Smith are sentenced to 3 years probation and 500 hours of community service. As the courtroom fell silent, the judge continued. Furthermore, the defendants are ordered to pay all property and assets they illegally attempted to acquire as compensation to the plaintiff, Catherine Bradley. All expenses related to the fake wedding ceremony in Hawaii will also be borne by the defendants. Catherine quietly closed her eyes. It was over. Her methodical evidence collection had paid off, and legal sanctions had been imposed for her family's betrayal. Outside the courthouse, Robert Harrison, the CEO of Catherine's company, was waiting for her. Catherine, that was brilliant, he placed his hand on her shoulder. The Tokyo office is waiting for you. Are you ready for your new challenge as Vice President of the Asia-Pacific region? Thank you, Robert, Catherine smiled. I'm ready to start anytime. I'm looking forward to my new life. 1 year later, from Catherine's office on the top floor of a Tokyo skyscraper, she could see the majestic sight of Mount Fuji. The latest performance report lay on her desk. Sales in the Asia-Pacific region under her leadership had achieved a 40% increase compared to the previous year. While sipping coffee, Catherine looked through a newspaper article from Boston that had arrived. It showed Michael serving his prison sentence. All that awaited him after his release was debt and a ruined reputation. Brittany was isolated from the local community, and her parents had disappeared from society. None of their former friends wanted anything to do with them. Even while reading such articles, there was no hatred in Catherine's heart. Rather, she was filled with a sense of fulfillment in her new life and the joy of finding a true family in the real sense. A knock was heard, and the door opened. Her new partner and a 10-year-old girl whom they planned to officially adopt from foster care this weekend entered with smiles. "The teacher said my drawing will be displayed at the school exhibition," the girl reported excitedly. Catherine stood up and walked toward the two. "That's wonderful. I just finished my work too." On her desk lay a thick envelope from Boston. It was from her former parents. Probably a letter asking for forgiveness. Catherine dropped it into the trash can. There was no need to be trapped by the past. "Let's go," she said with a smile. "I'll enjoy lunch with my precious family." As Catherine left the office, the sky was clear blue. Her life too would spread out ahead without obstacles, just like the sky. With her true family, bound not by blood but by love and respect.